So I hope this stream is now okay. Great. Hello, good afternoon. Hi, my woman of work community. How are you today? I hope that your day is going well, or at least it had started on a good foot or a good note. I'm here today and I won't be long today. And today's podcast is more gonna be along the lines of a simple encouragement. Yes, it's not gonna be a long stream today, so I hope that you'll all hop on before I hop off. And even if you're not able to join live, for those of you who will miss it live, the stream will always be there for you to view here on Instagram live at anointed underscore number 2 underscore encourage, and also it will be there on YouTube at Aura Woman of Worth Francis. So you're always free to go over and stream on the YouTube platform, or you can always join me live here on Instagram. So last week was amazing, and I was so blessed and empowered, by the message or the podcast, that I did last week. It had blessed me and made me really look at my life and say to myself how much I have grown and how much I have been applying most of the things to my life that I've learned, the knowledge that I've gained, the impartation that I may have received, and stuff like that. When I look back and I play back some of the podcasts that I've already streamed, I think to myself, wow, Aura, you have really grown and matured and have surely been applying wisdom to your days, because the woman I am today, I certainly was not the very same woman last year, even a few months ago probably, and I certainly am not the woman I am today that I was a couple of years ago. And I am so grateful to God, because He has taken me a far way. He has been really gracious and kind to me. He has been very merciful and compassionate, and for that I am super grateful. And because of how great He is, I have no other option but to give Him the glory for my life and for the woman that you're seeing sitting before you week after week and sharing stories and sharing real life experiences and just, sharing words of encouragement and information to you all, so that you too all can walk in victory and value, so that you too, my Woman of Worth community, can come in to understand and be able to become one with whom God has predestined you to be, and to be that woman of worth that God has called you to be, that woman of worth who is so powerful, so great, and so strong, that woman of worth who is absolutely amazing and smart, that woman of worth who is great, who is so beautiful and strong, that woman of worth who is just simply amazing. And if you're a mom, believe me, if you are a mom, you are more than amazing. You are like a superwoman, because being a mom myself, it's not such an easy task at times to be able to navigate around the other things I have to do, or to be able to balance the different responsibilities and chores and stuff like that, and to have some time for myself. That's very hard sometimes, or most times. but by the grace of God, I'm able to carry out the duties and responsibilities that I am called to do, and that kind of a thing. And we are just superwoman. Let me just leave it right there and just say that we are all superwoman. And let me just say this quickly for the men who may come across this stream, who may be thinking there some kind of bias or something against the men, why the men is not mentioned so much on this stream. Well, to be honest, the podcast is really for the Woman of Worth community. However, it's not limited to just women, because I'm sure that there are persons who are males who can also learn from these podcasts, who can also apply wisdom. The streams also, I'm sure, can bless males and allow them to also see their worth, because there are men too who struggle with their worth. There are men too who struggle in knowing who they are, who they are called to be. There are men who have not yet identified with their purpose. There are men who have settled for less than they deserve in so many different ways. And so I just want to say, I see you. Thank you for joining in. Hi, Column Music 23. I see you. I see you. How are you? And so, with that said, Father's Day is coming up, and I just want to take this time, this moment, to acknowledge the fathers, to acknowledge the men who may not be biological fathers, but you may be a guardian to a child. You may have taken on the responsibility of a father to someone else's child, and that is superb. That is just amazing. And so I want to lift my hat. I don't have a hat on today, but I want to lift my hat off to all the fathers, all the men who have stood by some child or children, whether it is theirs or not, whether you're the biological dad or not, but you have decided to play that role. You may even be a mentor, a father figure. You may even be a spiritual dad to spiritual children. And so I just want to acknowledge you today, because of course I won't be here on live on Sunday, which will be Father's Day. And so I just want to wish you all a blessed and joyful Father's Day when it comes to all my fathers. Now, with all of that said, I'm going to get right into the meat of the matter today, what the stream will be about. And so I want to call this one Your Desires versus God's Desires. Now, we all have desires. Every single individual has a desire. And our desires may range from wanting a husband, a wife, children, a business, to be able to walk into a purpose and calling, to be able to function in our ministry or the office of the spiritual gifts. We may have desires to be good friends, to have good friendships. We may have desires to want to see our families in unity, in unison. We may desire to own our own business. We may desire to be rich, be wealthy financially. We may desire to be spiritually wealthy too. We may desire to have good neighbors, something as simple as that. We desire for there to be peace in our island, Jamaica, and for there to be peace all over the world. Now, I could go on and on from the ranges of desires that we have as individuals. But God has a desire that is so far much greater than the desires that we could ever have. Mind you, let me just put this in right here, that the good desires of our hearts, it is God himself who has placed them there. And so he's the one who will see to it that these desires are manifested, or these desires become fruition or fruitful, and that kind of a thing. He watches over his words to perform them. And so while we have our own desires, sometimes some desires too that we may have, they may not necessarily be the desires that God has placed in our heart and intended for us to be able to see or to walk into the manifestation. And what I mean by that is, sometimes we allow our flesh man to get into the way of the true purpose of what God or who God has called us to be and the things that God wants for us. And I mean, what I also mean is that sometimes we may desire a thing. For example, we may desire to be in a relationship, and let's say the person that we desire to be in a relationship with, let's say that person is already taken, that person is already married, that person may not be married but already has a spouse. Now, clearly, if as an individual you are desiring that person to be yours, clearly that's not the desire of God. That's not a desire that God has placed in your heart. Let me just make that absolutely clear. I've been there, so I know exactly what I'm saying. I used to live that life and deceived myself. It was no one who deceived me. It was I who deceived myself. It was the enemy who caused me to believe that whom I am desiring or was desiring was mine and or would eventually become mine someday. But God destroyed it. God had to just make everything become a mess so that I could move away from the relationships that He had not designed for my life. And remember, I shared in a podcast titled Covenant Relationships, and in that podcast, it stated more about the different relationships that we find, even friendships that we find ourselves in, that God had not designed for us. So let me just come back to right here to say that in that kind of a thing, in those relationships, when we desire that kind of thing, someone who is already taken, that's not a desire of God. That's not the plan of God. That's not the will of God. That has nothing to do with God. That absolutely has to do with just our own mere flesh. The flesh that is so smelly, the flesh that is so awful, the flesh that sometimes, overrides everything else that God has plans for us. Not that it has to be the thing that rules, but sometimes we allow the flesh to rule rather than the Spirit of God. And you may not be saved, and you may be wondering, what am I saying? Now, you may not be saved, but it's not to say that God doesn't speak to the individual who is not yet a born again believer. God does speak to every man, but it is for you, that individual, to be keen and to listen to the still small voice. Sometimes you may ask God for signs, and God may have given you the signs, but because again of the flesh, you allow the flesh to lead you rather than the Spirit of God. Some other things that we may desire. You may desire a home, you may desire a family, and you may want to start a family. You may desire to become married, but because of settling for less than you deserve, you may tell yourself that you will not wait because time is catching up on you. You may tell yourself that you are 30, 35, 40 even, and you may be saying to yourself your biological clock is ticking, and there's no way you can wait until you have that husband or that wife. And so you run ahead of God, you run ahead of the plans that God has for you, and you find yourself sometimes maybe in a relationship that the individual may not have yet been ready for a child, and you have become pregnant. And what happens? Usually we see these things play out where most of the times, I'm not bashing the men now, but most of the times, as soon as a female shares that she's pregnant, the male figure or the father disappears. And that woman now may become so brokenhearted, she no longer, sees or believes that God, the desires that God has for her, she may no longer believe that God can still do something great in her life. And it can be any other thing that you desire, and because you may think that you could not wait, you may think that time is running out on you, and you went ahead and you just did your own thing, and things just become ugly. It may even be something as simple as a job. You could be job hunting, and you know, and you may have more than one option to choose from. Or you may be working somewhere and you want to change your job. You may even want to change your career, and you just tell yourself that you cannot wait any longer to be able to make that shift, to make that move. But God was really saying to you, wait another month, wait out another 3 months, another 6 months, whatever time period it is. And you will know, because there will be a peace within your spirit. There will be a peace within your soul. There will be a peace within your mind. And what I mean by all that is, there is a scripture from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verses 11. But I want to read from 11 to 13. And what it says from verse 11 is that, for I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. There's another version that says, for I know the thoughts I have for you, thoughts and plans to prosper you, to give you a good and expected end. And verses 12 says, then shall ye call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. Verse 13 reads, and ye shall seek me and find me, when ye shall search for me with all your heart. Now, those three verses are so power-packed. They're very powerful. They're very to the point, and they're very bold in what it's expressing. And so a few seconds ago, I said that you will know, because there will be a peace in your heart, in your spirit, and in your mind. Now, because God's plans are so perfect, because his desires for us are so perfect, they are flawless. There are no spots. You can find nothing that is impure in God's thoughts or in his plans for you. And so because his plan is to give you, his thoughts are of peace. When we learn to wait on God's timing, that's not easy, of course. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's easy. When we learn to wait on God to bring the right people into our lives, when we wait on God to give us the green light, give us the go ahead, there will be a peace in our heart. And because God's thoughts are to give us peace, when we go against his desires and we chase our own fleshly desires now, what happens is, sometimes, remember I said sometimes when we go ahead, we find ourselves in a relationship, we're desiring someone else's spouse and things like that, there will not be a peace within us. There will not be a peace within you. I know, because I have lived that life in the past. Because you may desire that individual to be yours, and because they're already taken, there is no peace within you. There was no peace within me then, because I would want the individual to be there for me, and they could not be there for me when I truly need them to be of emotional support and that kind of a thing. And there are times when I felt like I would just cry. I would just think that, why can't I have, what I believe? I believe I deserve the best. I believe that I deserve someone who will love me for me. I believed that I deserve all these things in relationships. But I was short changing myself. I was settling for less than I deserve, and because I was doing that, there was no peace. I could not find peace with myself at times, because I would just be crying at night, just be crying at night. Why me, and that kind of a stuff. Felt used, felt abused, and felt mistreated, and that kind of a stuff. But I was the one who placed myself in that predicament. Sometimes we don't want to face the truth and tell ourselves like it is. Sometimes we deceive ourselves, or we're in denial to say, oh, I didn't know, or why God never give me a sign, and that kind of a thing. But all of those things were so clear before us, but again, because of the flesh, we went and did our own thing. Now, because God's plans and thoughts are so pure towards you, towards me, towards us, and they are of a good and expected end. There was a time when I could almost not see that good and expected end. I know God is pure. I know God is faithful. I know God is true to his nature, to who he is. But there was a point in time when I almost became hopeless. There was a point in time where I almost became, what should I say, where I almost gave up on life, in the sense that I just thought that there will never be a time where I will experience God's goodness on another level, because I know I was experiencing his goodness. I was tasting and seeing excuse me, God's goodness. But the good and expected end, the expected end, a lot of us, I think, we don't have that spirit driving us to have an expected end. Sometimes we settle for just the mediocrity, we settle for the minority, we settle for the limitations, we settle for the comfort zones, we settle for the things that are so minuscule. And sometimes, because of the desires that we have that counteract the desires of God, sometimes it blindsides us, because the flesh man is riding up so much in us. We're not able to believe and see that God has so much more in store for us, that we can believe that God has so much greater in store for us, that our eyes have not yet seen, our ears have not yet heard, nor have some of the things that we should be expecting have not yet entered into the hearts of men. And there was a point in time where I was almost at the stage where I just could not believe that there will be that time. It's almost like I was there was a battle within my soul. There was a battle where I believed at this point, and the next point I was not believing. My yea was not my yea, and my nay was not my yea. I was double-minded at a point in time. So I almost did not have an expectation. But what came about and changed that for me, to start believing and expecting, to start believing that there has to be more, there has to be greater, it had nothing to do with me. It was that purpose, it was that spirit man within me that came alive, that kept knocking. And what I mean by that is, years ago, I remember being at work, I was sharing with my friend, and I was saying to her, I don't know, and I was talking so strong, and I know that had to be the Spirit of God that was speaking through me, why I had that. It's almost like I had an aggression in my speech at the time, I think. I was talking with so much confidence, so much power, so much assurance, so much faith, so much assurity, so much everything that was so great. And I kept saying to her, I believe that there is more for me. I said to her, I know that God has something greater for me. There is more in store for me, and I will no longer settle for less than I deserve. I will no longer settle at the place where I am at. And at that time, if my memory serves me well, I don't think I was in a relationship at the time, but I was strung up on what they call this guy a soul tie. I also talk about that in one of my posts before. I think it was in the covenant relationship too that I talk about that kind of a thing. And I just kept hanging on to something that deep within me, I know it was not going to go anywhere. And so spiritually too, I wanted to be at a better place. I wanted to be in a true relationship with God and have true fellowship with him. And so a battle was going on again right there. But outside of that, God was just doing a new thing in me. And I just think that that's just what it was. He was doing a new thing. He was shifting me mentally, emotionally, physically, relationally. I think he was just shifting me, right? And so I was just saying to my friend at the time that, girl, there's so much more. And I was also encouraging her to say to her, girl, God has more in store for you too. Don't settle for less than you deserve, and stay at the level or the place that you're at. God wants more for you, and you should also too desire more for yourself. And it was at that point that things started shifting, my mindset and everything, and I started having this strong belief to have an expected end. An expected end that no matter what I was seeing before me, no matter the challenges was having, no matter the trials I was facing, no matter the temptations that were present, I started believing the more and having what's the word I'm looking for? That confidence in God to say, hey, God, you are God, you will always be God. It is I who have changed, it is the circumstances who have changed, and you remain the same. And so I now choose to believe that you have a plan to prosper me. Not just a plan, but you have plans to prosper me. You have plans to give me a good and expected end. You have plans and thoughts that you think towards me that were of peace. They were of good and not of evil. When I think just about that part in itself, that is absolutely amazing to know that God thinks of us. He thinks about all the different facets of our lives. He cares enough for us that he wants the best for us. But we also too have to desire the best for ourselves. And desiring the best for ourselves may also mean that even if it hurts to break away from some of the relationships that doesn't serve us, we have to move away from them, whether it be a spousal relationship, whether it be a friendship, or it may even be family members. Sometimes too, we have to move away from those things that are no longer serving us and serving us in the right capacity. And to know or to believe that the plans God has for me were to prosper me, and that they were good enough and of an expected end, I had to learn to believe in myself, because I think I did not believe so much in myself. I thought I doubted myself a lot. I feared a lot of things, because sometimes if I'm in a particular space or setting, or I'm among a certain set of persons, I thought rather that they were more educated. I thought that they were more knowledgeable. I thought that they were more experienced or exposed and that kind of a thing. And because of those doubts and fear, I started measuring myself against, what they possessed. And I was cheating myself. So too, some of you who may come upon this podcast today, you may be doing the very same. And so today, I just want to encourage you and to let you know that God has uniquely created you in his own image and likeness. He has fearfully made you. He has wonderfully made you to be a unique individual. And because of that kind of a thing, I had to learn to believe in myself. Yes, it feels good when we have individuals who believe in us. It's good when we have individuals who will cheer us on. It's good when we have individuals who will celebrate us. It's good when we have individuals who will even invest in us. But let me tell you, if we are not able to invest, to encourage, to cheer ourselves on, to celebrate ourselves, then right there we may find ourselves in a great disposition. And so I had to learn to do those things. I also had to learn to get out the comfort zone. Now that can be one of the hardest things to do for a lot of individuals, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And we have so many different areas where we can find our comfort zones in different things. And I had to learn to move out of my comfort zone. And let me just say that one of the persons that I really appreciate for driving me out of my comfort zone is my husband. Now, I share in a podcast that this man at a point in time, he was so tugging on me because he saw that there was greater in me. He saw that there was so much more for me. He saw what I was not able to see at the time. I was looking limited. I was limiting my thoughts. Therefore, I could not see the bigger vision. I could not see myself beyond where I was looking at the time. And when he came along, he added to that, and uh, pushed me, drive me out of my comfort zones. And of course, anybody getting driven out of their comfort zone, you're gonna be mad, you're gonna be upset, you're gonna be annoyed, you're gonna be irritated, and that kind of a thing. But I had to learn to move out of it, and because of those things, I am now seeing beyond where I was looking. I am now seeing the bigger picture. I am now seeing the bigger visions. I am now seeing the hills, the valleys, the plains, the desert. I am now seeing everything, the rivers. I'm now seeing the ocean. I'm seeing everything. I'm now seeing with the eyes of an eagle. I'm now seeing clearly. I'm now seeing what God wanted me to see. Now, in the Bible, there's a scripture where the I don't remember what book in the Bible, but there were some young men who were sent to go and spy out the land that was promised to them, and some of them came back with doubt. They came back with doubt in their mind, with their hearts. When they were asked, "What do you see?" They said they saw giants. In other words, they saw themselves like this. They did not see that they could be more than what they saw themselves as. Yeah, that might not be the best way to explain it, but right now my mind is like just not able to really explain that the real way that I would love to. But I hope that it's not taken out of context and that you're understanding what I'm saying. But in a sense, that's how I was seeing. So now, because I'm able to see like this, I'm now able to activate some of the talents and gifts that are hidden on the inside of me, the treasures that are hidden on the inside of me. Because I'm now able to see with a bigger vision, I can now put plans in place. And it is important for us to put plans in place. Sure, when we commit our ways to God, He's the one who will establish all of the plans that we have, right? And bring the desires to fruition. However, it is good also for us to make plans, to write down our goals and our visions and stuff like that. And because of that, I'm able to now see so clearly that the different things are the different areas that I was so limited in. I'm now, it's like the floodgates is now open. And I just want to encourage you today and say that if because of a broken heart, if because of a relationship that has been severed, whether it be a friendship or a spousal relationship, if because you have lost a job, because you have been going through so many different things and you have no idea, no clue what to do, who to go to, where to turn, you are just so lost right now, you're so confused, you're so disheartened, maybe you're despaired, maybe because of all of the difficult things that you are experiencing, maybe you're not able to see beyond your emotions, you're not able to see beyond your limitations like I once did. Maybe because of all of what you're experiencing, maybe you've told yourself that there's nothing good to expect. Maybe you have even told yourself that it's just pure wicked, it's just pure evil, it's just pure bad things that's coming onto you. No. Let me tell you, you have to learn to also change your speech. You have to learn to declare and decree the good things, the great things over your life. That was also something that I had struggled with and could not come to terms with the good plans that God had for me, because I would also tell myself, because I didn't have this, because I didn't have that, I used to tell myself that I cannot do this, I will not be able to do that, and that's a lie. God has given us everything that we need. He has placed everything within us or here on this earth for us to possess and to be able to do what we need to do. And because of the things that we go through, I know a lot of people today who still tell themselves that it seems there's just pure bad and evil that happens to them. Remember, I read Jeremiah chapter 29 verses 11 to 13. And remember what verses 11 says, that God has a good plan and a good thought for you, thoughts of peace and not of evil. So you have to change your mindset right there. Start believing that good things will happen to you. Start believing that good things are coming your way. Start believing that good people will find you, will locate you. Start believing that God will align and assign the right people, good people to you. Start believing that you can do great things, that you can do amazing things. Start believing these kind of things and decree them, and become one with them too, right? And that kind of a thing. And so I also want to encourage you today and say to you, if you have no one to turn to, if you feel like you are all alone in your sea of troubles, if you feel like you're all alone in your trials and your temptation and your test, if you feel like you're all alone running this race, I'm here to encourage you and say to you, you are not alone. I too have struggled with some of the things that you too may be struggling with today. I too, at a point, did not believe or think or was expecting. And today I am here to tell you that because of God's goodness, grace, because of His mercy and faithfulness, because of me changing my mindset, believing, having the right people around me, I was able to shift. God had already shifted the atmosphere. He already shifted things, but I also had to make a shift. I also had to start doing things differently. And so I want to encourage you, my Woman of Worth community today, to believe in yourself first and foremost, and to believe that God has great plans for you, and to believe that His desires, they far surmount the desires that you have, and His desires are to prosper you and to give you a great and expected end. I love you, but God loves you more. Shalom. Until next time, I see you again. Bye-bye.